Friends, welcome back to my channel. My name's Angel, and today we'll be doing my September reading wrap up. We're doing this a little bit differently today because I am standing, but I thought the lighting was good and my bookshelf kind of looked cute, so we're gonna see how this goes. If I regret not sitting soon, we'll remember that for next time. Now I came back alive this month because I read 20 books in the month of September. For an idea of how my reading normally goes, I feel like I was typically in like the 10 to 15 range, but I did go into a slump in May. So in May I read 3 books, June I read 1, July I read 3, I think August I read 7, like kind of came back to the last 2 weeks. This is my first month fully on my reading slump, and I'm just so excited to read all these books I want to read while I was in my slump that I could not. So this is gonna be fairly rapid fire style because there is 20 to get through, but alas. I start with my e-copies. The first book I read was A Tongue So Sweet and Deadly. This is the first book. I think it's like in the compelling Fate saga. I think there's 3 books currently, going to be a 4th one coming out shortly. I read this series because Emmy raved about it. She gave it a 5-star. I settled on 4.5. Pretty much our main character has like this power that she can control people just by looking at them, and she kind of owes something to the king and ends up finding herself somehow in like the human election system. This is on KU, so I'll definitely be reading the rest of the series, but I had so much fun with this one. Then we have Hera, and I gave this book a 2.5 star because this book, I already tried reading a couple Greek mythologies before and they had not gone over very well. And I think this one just kind of sealed the deal for me that Greek mythology and fiction just may not be for me, even though it's like I love Greek mythology, just like in fiction might not be my cup of tea exactly. I hate every single man in this book, which is like what was supposed to happen, also may I add, but I just felt like there was not a lot of repercussions for them. I get their gods and I get all that stuff too, but it was just so frustrating to read about. And yeah, it wasn't the best time. Is This a Cry for Help is an arc I read, and this one I gave 4 stars. This one dealt with complex grief in a way that I hadn't really seen in books recently or like ever. Pretty much her like first love from like 5 years ago. They broke up, I think it was over 5 years ago at this point. Passes away, and it's kind of like how she navigates that. She's in therapy, she's having a really hard time with it, and it's more just because she's unpacking all stuff that happened in that relationship. At the same time, there's great conversations about the library system, LGBTQ plus representation. It was one of those reads that kind of like stuck with me. I wouldn't call it fun. It was more like introspective. And as somebody who like grieves quite loudly, I always say that I do that. As somebody who grieves quite loudly, it was very nice and therapeutic to read, I think. Another arc I read was Graceless Heart. This was a 3.75, I think. The more that I've thought about it, it might be a 4-star. This is the next book from Isabella Banez, and it is a historical fantasy romance, which like be right up my alley. I found a love of historical fiction while reading Kristen Hanna, and I think I'd never really thought about bringing historical elements into the romantasy that I love so much. However, this was just the perfect mixture. It was set in, I remember if it was 1800s or it was, but it was set in Italy, and it was really fun. And then I read Remain, and this one was a 2-star. I want to love this because I haven't read Nicholas Sparks before, and I really wanted to kind of hop on that bandwagon, love his work, and this was not for me. However, I did see in the acknowledgements, this is the first time ever he's kind of gone into the paranormal sphere with his writing. So I feel like I should try him again with the contemporary romance. I feel like the paranormal aspect of this was what ruined this book for me, which is weird because I love the Dead Romantics, and that was like a ghost romance to begin with. But this one, yeah, it's very much ghost romance, and it was just weird. I didn't really enjoy any part of it, to be honest. I was already kind of like bored, and then all that started happening, and I was like, it's not for me, babe. It's not for me, and I'm so sorry about that. But I won't disrespect his name because he is major name for a reason. I will try more of his books, but this was just not the one for me. I read Mad Honey, and I'm so torn about this book because I loved it while I was reading it. I was just so engaged. I was really intrigued the whole time. I think it was leading up to like a 4.5, 4.75 star. And I just felt like the ending was like the slightest bit rushed, like the big reveal. Like pretty much it's dual POV. It's a mom and then also her son's girlfriend of the 2 POVs. And pretty much one day her son goes over to his girlfriend's house and she is dead. Obviously he gets framed for it. It's a whole court thing. You're kind of going back and forth being like, could he have done it? Like, no, like who was it? You don't really know who it is. And then you find out the reveal on like the second to last page, and it kind of gave the same ending as where the Crawdads sing, where you have that reveal right at the very end. You're like, it also was just like not, I don't say not well explained because it was. I like the whole reasoning behind it and what happened, but my thing was I was like, oh, these aren't just thrown at you. I feel like they kind of lowered it a little bit, but I think it's gonna be a 4.25 at least. I did really enjoy this one. They are Out in a Limb, and I think this one's gonna be a 4.5. I loved this one. It's been a while since I've loved a standalone contemporary romance in this way. As somebody who lives in Ontario, it was really fun seeing like names of like places and schools like I could literally recognize. Pretty much these guys have one night stand. She becomes pregnant. My only gripe with this, and it's not even like it's not a bad thing, but it's just that everything was so perfect. Everything that could have been the absolute best case scenario pretty much happened. I could say he's an amazing, perfect man, but it's kind of like everything was dealt with like it was just the best outcome possible, and I was almost like slightly unrealistic because even like the things that like they threw in to be like, oh, like a gut punch, it still was like, so that made it even better. It made it even better somehow, and it was all fine and dandy. I just feel like I just there was like some part of the process they butted heads on like the slightest bit. I feel like it was very much like yeah, it sounds great. Yeah, let's do that. That's great. And it was just very much everything was fine and dandy. The Reckoning, Book 3 in Zodiac Academy, I gave a 4.25, and this one I did really love. I think it's my favorite of the series thus far. I will just say, not that I don't like the series. I think it's very entertaining. The writing is not the best, and we all know this. I'd say it gives kind of like Wattpad energy in a sense, just like the writing style of it. Everybody says it's kind of like trashy television, and that honestly is like the best way to put it. It kind of is just like trashy reality TV almost. I read Meet Me at the Lake. I gave Carly Fortune a second chance, and I gave this one a 3.5. I loved Every Summer After up until the part. You guys all know if you read it. Up until that third act conflict, if you want to call it, that ruined the entire book for me. I gave it like a 2 star. After that, I could not get past it. I've not picked up another book by this author since then. However, Meet Me at the Lake was like a Libby skip the line loan. I could get it right then for like 7 days. I was like, you know what? I'll give her a try. I'll see how this one goes. Pretty much our two main characters had met like, I think it was 10 years prior, had like an amazing day together, promised to meet up the next year, and the guy didn't show up. And I was like, 10 years later, by circumstance, they're in the same place again, and they kind of have this whole conversation about what happened, why he didn't show up, and you get like then and now timeline. My only thing is like the second I enjoyed the book while I read it, but the second I closed it, I have not thought about it since. It just hasn't been in my mind. I've thought about the characters, so. And then I read Consider Me by Becca Mack, and this one, it kind of pains me because I feel like if I'd read it on like actual ebook or physical copy, I could have enjoyed it a lot more. But let's just on audiobook, and I gave it like I think it's gonna be like 3.25 or 3.5. I found it so long for one. It was just the sense that I get a lot happened, but at one point, like they were already together, and I'd listened for a little bit. I was like, oh, like they were already like hooking up, and I looked, and it was like 25% of the way through this book. And this book was like 500 plus pages. I'm like, what is happening for the other 75%? Because this is getting kind of crazy. I feel like there's a lot of repetition in conversations. I hated the way the male main character in the audiobook did the female's voice. It was so whiny. And it's just like something so small, but I was like, I can't stand. And when it's your chapter, to be honest, I want to hear you do her voice. And then also just the ending, I did not like the way their like happily ever after moment played out. If you read the book, you kind of know what happened, what the situation and setting was, but it was not. That's like always like a big no for me. Like no, no. I think if it was like 200 pages shorter, I would have ate this up. I would have ate it up, but it was just a little bit too long for my liking. I'd read a little novella that I'm not going to rate. It's The Pale Dreamer, and this was like in the back of the Bone season. It was the like prequel novella you could read. It was like 78 pages, I think. I'm not gonna rate it because it was so short, but I did have a really good time with it. I thought I'd just mention that one as well. But if I had to rate it, probably like a 4 star. But I really don't rate novellas that short. And then into the physicals, but the first one's a physical one that I can't find. But that's Fate of the Sun King. I gave that one a 3 star. And the problem with this one is I'm actually unhauling it currently, so I haven't sold it yet, or I haven't dropped it off at a little library yet, but it might just be somewhere and I can't find it. Pretty much, I ruined this book for myself though, because I read book 1 and 2 over a year ago now, and then tried picking up book 3, and it was just I didn't care. Like I read full summaries of like what to expect way into these ones, like what kind of like a recap of book 1 and book 2. It didn't help. I was just so far removed from the story that I couldn't care enough to care. And I knew if I was gonna really enjoy the series, I'd have to go back and reread the first two. Because I gave the first two, I think it was like a 4.25 and a 4. I enjoyed them, but I didn't like them enough to want to reread them now to enjoy the third and fourth book, if that makes sense. So unfortunately, I'm going to DNF the series here. I did finish book 3, but I'm not going to read book 4. And if I do, I might just read on KU one day if I'm like bored. But yeah, the ending like almost made me intrigued enough to keep going, but to be honest, I think it was just my fault for having too much space in between the books. Then I read Foxglove. This one I'm going to give a 4 star. I think I'm going to settle on. This is the second book in like the Belladonna trilogy. And this one kind of gets more main characters. So there's Signa, Death. Now you have Blythe, which is Signa's cousin, and Fate, which is Death's brother. It's all the same like murder mystery aspect the last book had. Pretty much Blythe's father is being framed for a murder. It's YA. It reads fast. It's a fun little series. I have also read book 3 now since reading this, but that was clearly in the month of October. If you want something quick, it's going to be fun. This is honestly a great one to pick up. Then after hearing Ellen Catherine absolutely rave about this book, I did pick up Blood and Steel, the first book in the Legends of Thesmar series, and I enjoyed this. I think I rated like a 4.5. Pretty much the whole gist of this one is that there's like some prophecy that says like a woman can never wield a sword because a woman wielding a sword is like the end of everything. Also, our main character is a ticking clock where she knows she's going to die at the age of 27, which kind of adds this whole like other level of suspense to everything. This one is fun. It's a little romantic-y. I have heard that as the series goes on, the spice gets more and more, and it's not always the best placed. I'm about to pick up the second book in this series literally in the next day or two, so I'll know then, but definitely have to watch out for that, but I did really enjoy this first one. Another series I started that I absolutely loved is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I will not shut up about this book. I'm going to read book 2 shortly as well. It's on October TBR. This one is one of those books where I gave it a 4.5, but if I really think back on it, it might be a 5 star because this is one of those books that I feel like I didn't rate 5 stars just because with series, I'm always scared about rating the first book a 5 star because it's like I know as the books go on, they're gonna get better and better because I'm gonna love the characters more, the world more, everything. So like, then how is this first book gonna be a 5 star? If like book 3 could be a 5 star, but like that I'm obsessed with, I love everything about, so it's kind of hard for me to do series. This one I'm trying to read the back of because I feel like they describe it a lot better than I could. Because trying to like sum this book up in a sentence or two was so challenging. It's pretty much the year 2059. For 2 centuries, the Republic of Sion has led an oppressive campaign against unnaturalness in Europe. In London, Paige Mahoney holds a high rank in the criminal underworld. The right hand of the ruthless white binder, Paige the Dreamwalker, a rare and formidable kind of clairvoyant. Under Sion law, she commits treason simply by breathing. When Paige is arrested for murder, she meets the mysterious founders of Sion, who have designs on her uncommon abilities. If she is to survive and escape, Paige must use every skill at her disposal and put her trust in someone who ought to be her enemy. There's currently 5 books out, and I feel like I'm just gonna binge this whole series. Guys, the sun is like slowly encroaching on me. I'm like, please don't ruin everything. I'm gonna do these 2 together because I did read the first 2 books in the Tawny Man trilogy, which is Fool's Errand and Golden Fool. This one I said had like such a better pickup than Farseer, I feel like, but obviously it's just to be expected. These are now books like 7 and 8 in this whole realm of the Elden world, so I know everything quite well now. I know the characters, I know where I'm at, and it was just so nice to jump back into Fitz's POV after being out of his point of view for the last trilogy. And I feel like now, reading these books back to back, I definitely think that's how I have to do more of these books, because I feel like the problem was it is a slower paced, character driven story, and then I would leave and go to other series that are faster paced or whatever, and I'd come back and it would just feel like a drag when it's really not. I love these books, it's just more so slow. I did my reread of Aqua. It's still a 5 star for me. It was my first 5 star I gave Sarah J. Maas. I'm not going to go too much into this book because it was a reread, because I feel like most people have already read this one, but it was a great time. Catabasis. This one I think is like a 4.75 for me. I wish it was a 5, but I didn't get the 5 star feeling. I didn't get the exact same feeling I read when I read Babel, where it was just like, this book is incredible. I love it with all my being. It was insane. And Arv Kwong is so good at what she does. She's incredible. This book, I just feel like it was perfect. I just didn't get the 5 star feeling, was my thing. Pretty much Alice and her academic rival go to hell to get the professor who died like in a mysterious magical accident. And pretty much it's for a reference letter. It kind of is like a play on, like what students will do for good reference, how high they hold their academics. Like, in this book, her hell is like Cambridge campus. So, and I love this. I love this woman and her writing. She can do no wrong in my eyes. One that did do wrong in my eyes is In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune, because I did not like this. I did not like this at all. I loved House in the Cerulean Sea. Love that one. This one I just felt like I didn't relate to any of the characters. I didn't care what was happening. Maybe it's just maybe I'm the problem. It could very well be me, but just remember, like, I read it and I was like, nothing about this is clicking for me. Like, one of the main characters is a vacuum cleaner, and just maybe I just can't do this. But it wasn't me. It wasn't for me. No. So this one will fortunately be getting donated, but I will still read other TJ Klune books because I loved House in the Cerulean Sea. Friends, without further ado, that was all the books I read in September, rapid fire style. I don't think I'm gonna have this successful of a month in October, but we might. Who knows? If you guys want to see more in-depth thoughts, I always give more kind of thoughts as I do my reading vlogs where I read all these books. So don't be afraid to subscribe and stay a little bit. If you guys could like, comment, help the channel out so much. If you don't know what to comment a blue heart so that you're still here. As always, I'm also on TikTok and Instagram at Angel's Book Corner, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.